Good morning, everyone. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be here. Of course, the most important day of my life, and things are kind of crazy right now. But I hope you are doing well on this beautiful Sunday morning, and we are kicking off podcast week here on Ask the Budgetologist. You have no idea how excited I am about this. So I'm going to go ahead and get everything ready to go. I didn't have my Instagram feed ready to go. But for those of you who are tuning in today, this is going to be the kickoff to 1 week of us learning exactly how to launch, leverage, and land speaking gigs with our podcast. And if you're brand new to me, this is kind of normal. This is kind of normal. So let me go ahead and put this in over here. And then we're going to get this party started. So let me know, how are you doing this early Sunday morning? I know. How are you doing? I put on the makeup for you all. So I hope everyone is doing well. I see Twyla here. I see Heather here. I know some people are probably watching over in the group, and so excited for that. So if you don't know who I am, and if you're brand new to me, I am Phylecia Jones, budgetologist and solopreneur money management expert, and you are watching Ask the Budgetologist. And I come to you live every morning, and I answer any questions you have about business, budgeting, and solo entrepreneurship. And of course, I give you tons of unsolicited financial advice. Now, you might be wondering, like, okay, this is a budgeting show. Why are we talking about speaking? Well, one of the ways that I talk about money is around managing your budget and also feeding your budget. And so we also need to know how to manage the money that we're getting, but we also need to know how to feed it. And speaking has been one of the ways that I have fed my budget over the last, 3 years of being in business. So I know the power of speaking, but I also know the power of podcasting. So that's why I'm here with you today to talk about podcasting and how you can use it as a speaker to really launch your business. So we're going to talk about all of that. I got my tea ready. Beatrice, good morning. How are you doing? And I'm here live on Instagram as well. So for those of you, I'm going live here on facebook.com/keep up with Mrs. Jones, and also over on Instagram at keep up with Mrs. Jones. So I got to sip some tea. Woo, that's how I got to get ready this morning. So this is going to be fun. And so with all the technical things going on in the background, I have no idea what's happening, but I do need to turn my fan on. So give me 2 seconds. I think as I get older, I'm just getting hotter. Am I flashing? I don't know. It doesn't matter. So we're going to do this anyway. All right. For those of you who are here on a Sunday morning, thank you so very much. You know, I appreciate you. So what we're doing all this week, it is literally podcast week here on the Ask the Budgetologist. Our goal is to understand what we can do to launch, leverage, and land speaking gigs with your podcast. And if you don't have a podcast, that's okay. I'm going to be here to slightly convince you to try and add podcasting to your world, because it has more benefits than what you think. And today's show, we're going to kick off all week. We're going to talk about all kinds of things, how to use your podcast, being consistent. I'm going to talk to you about my friends over at podcast websites. But today, we're going to talk about the benefits of podcasting for speakers, just straight up, just the benefits, because you have no idea. And I'm going to tell you a bit about my backstory and things like that. So first, I want to let you know, if you ever need any help from me, all you have to do is go over to keepupwithmrsjones.com/jumpstart. Also, this is being brought to you in partnership with my friends over at Podcast Websites. They are an all-in-one solution to help you get your podcast out to the world faster. And I'm really just going to tell you more about them, because if you're ready to get your podcast into the hands of speaker coordinators, they are the company to help you. Because I can talk about the DIY, and it took me over a year to get my podcast out, versus they're a company that can just help you get out there faster than what I did, and probably a whole lot cheaper and a less stress. So we're going to talk about that. You could definitely, I'm going to give you a link so you can go check out my friends over at Podcast Websites. I'm going to put it down in the comment box. Just an amazing company. My dear sweet friend, Mr. Mark Asquith, is one of the co-founders. And so love everything about them. I know Annette Bone is a client of them. And you know what? They're just really cool people. And they're English too. So if you need like fancy English people in your life, there you go. There you go. You want them in your life. So, good morning, Annette. I hope you are doing well. And so thank you, Annette. She says, I already give amazing content, so it's going to be great. All right. So everyone, go ahead and get your pens and paper out. Go ahead, get your pens, paper, whatever. I got mine so I can remember what I'm talking about this morning. But right now, I'm just going to go over some of the benefits of podcasting. I'm going to give you my story and something that I really never paid attention to when it comes to podcasting. And for those of you who are podcasters that are watching, please let me know if I'm lying about anything. So here's just my story. So I started podcasting a year ago. So my very first podcast is actually called the Budget School Podcast. It deflated after 12 episodes and one didn't even get published, but I just couldn't figure out how to keep it going, especially with such a very close topic around budgeting. Now, it's a good thing because I could focus, but I kind of just lost the little energy. And then I also started live streaming, which inadvertently became my new podcast. So you can definitely find this podcast over on Google Podcasts or on iTunes if you look for Ask the Budgetologist. But I started that and I never realized that people would be listening. Never thought about it. It was just like, oh, this would be cool if like one person listens. That's neat. I don't know if any of you are like me where you go and look at downloads or you look at who watched your video and you're like, who watches this stuff? I am definitely one of those. So I'm always surprised when people like listen. I'm always surprised that you show up and listen to this stuff. So, but I appreciate it. And it's so much fun. But that's the thing about podcasting. You just don't know who is listening. And especially if you do video podcasting, you don't know who is watching. So I started it and it was just something that I did and never really thought much of it. But what happened, and it started on Twitter. It started where someone actually started reaching out to me on Twitter and they started asking me all of these questions. I'm like, okay, who are you and where'd you come from? They're like, oh, I listened to your podcast. Like, oh, okay, somebody listens to the podcast. And it was just like that amazing thing that people just actually started listening. And that it took me a few months to pay attention to that people were listening and you don't know why. And you don't even know where they're coming from. So one of the main benefits that I'm going to tell you, this is number one for today, and I need to write this down, is that people are listening. And it's not the people that engage, it's not the people that leave you reviews, it's not the people that leave you ratings. If they are people just like me, I listen for about a year before I even engage with anyone in their podcast or their live stream. But you got to realize that there are people who are out there listening. You'll never know who they are until they come up to you or until they send you this random message with a random question. And Annette, you can tell me. And Annette, please tell me if I'm telling the truth. You're never really sure who's listening, but they are listening. So that's the first point. People are listening. And if you do live streaming into a podcast, we're going to talk about that on Friday. If you live stream and how to turn it into a podcast like I do, but they are listening and they are watching. So you better put out some good content. But that's the most surprising thing about this. And when last year, I landed a TV spot for the local news here in Denver, Colorado. Never really thought much of it, but when I did ask the guy right in between commercial breaks, I was like, how did you find me? He was like, I Googled you and you came up. And then he said, I saw your podcast. I was like, whoa, he actually saw that. So that was kind of cool. So, I mean, he said he listened for like a little bit. And then he reached out to me to come onto the news. So that's the thing about it. People are listening. So for all of you who are trying to book speaking engagements, for all of you who are trying to get on bigger stages, you got to start putting your voice out there. Okay. Podcasting is it's probably one of the less stressful ways of marketing your business is your voice and your content. And this is one of the ways that people can see if you know exactly what you're talking about. It only takes about 3 or 4 shows before people tune out. If it's really bad, it only takes about 10 minutes into a show. I've done that. But this is like your one chance to put out content at a less stressful pace. Even if you did a 10-part show, you have a podcast that people can go and hear exactly what you're talking about, hear your exact content, and to determine if you know what the hell you're talking about. So that's what I want you to realize with number one. People are listening, okay? People are listening, and the right people are listening. So with that, with the news anchor who reached out to me, that's the thing I had to realize, that people were listening to what I was saying. I mean, it's a little shocking, because it's like, oh my gosh, I hope I'm not saying anything stupid. You never want to say anything stupid, but it is so true. And Annette is agreeing with me. She said, you are right. People are listening and watching, even if they're not engaging directly. That's the key thing about this first benefit. There will be people who will never engage. There will be people who will never share. There will be people who will never leave a review. But guess what? When you go to a conference, they come up to you and they say, oh my gosh, I listened to everything that you do. And it's like, whoa, that's crazy. But remember that. That's the beautiful thing about podcasting, is that people are listening. So just imagine people like me. I'm a speaker coordinator here in Denver, Colorado. I'm actually giving up my position with one group here this month. But for someone who consumes podcasts, and for someone who is always looking for speakers, that's how I do it. You know, I can listen to a podcast and it's like, okay, I want to meet this person. 2, I want them on my stage. So people are listening. And podcasting is one of the most beautiful ways of putting your voice out there, that is not like slamming the world with social media content all the time. You're not having to do hard, straight up sales calls. You don't have to network your butt off and be all over town spending a lot of money. But you can sit in the private of your home, just like this in my office, with a microphone. I'm going to give you all the tools next Saturday. And you can just start recording your voice. It can be 7 minutes. It can be 10 minutes. It can be 20. I don't care if it's an hour. But the thing is, people can hear your voice, okay? It doesn't matter how long. It doesn't matter how well produced it is. I mean, this right here, my show, is not edited. I mean, if you listen to the podcast, it's all coughs and hacks and me running to turn the fan on. It doesn't have to be perfectly edited, but people will listen. All right. So that's point number one. And that's the benefit. One of the main benefits I really want to hammer into you is that people are listening, and the right people are listening. Okay. Especially if you're trying to get clients too. So now speaker coordinators are your clients, in addition to if you are a coach or if you are a consultant. They're listening to you and they are out there. And of course, I'm not the only expert on this. If you have a podcast and you have something to add to this list, please put them down in the comment box. Let me know what's going on with you and your podcast and some unexpected things that you've gotten out of podcasting. As Annette is saying, if done correctly, in quotation marks, it is an organic way to reach people that want to hear you because they choose to listen. Ooh, that's a good one. People choose to listen to you. If they don't want to listen, they won't. It's not like interruption marketing. And you're so right, Annette. A lot of the things that we are taught as coaches and consultants and business owners is very interruptive marketing. We get into people. We call them like 1,200 times. We send them a whole bunch of emails. We get in their face when we're networking. But podcasting is a very interesting way. I mean, you can do interruption marketing with it, and it will work. But it's on a very low key scale. It's the people who want to hear you will listen to you. So that is so true. I had another reason why this was so beneficial, and it just left my brain right now. So, so I'm going to sip some tea, and it just came to me. So let me sip some tea. All right. Number 2. Here's one of the most unexpected benefits that I got out of podcasting. SEO. So that's search engine optimization. Now, one, I can't stand these 3 letters put together, SEO, because they're too buzzwordy and they're overdone so many times. They're overdone, especially with my earmuff, my social media marketing people. You got to have your SEO. You got to have your SEO. And I'm like, what the heck is SEO? And I went through a class on SEO a couple of weeks ago. It is so overwhelming. But I'm here to let you know that you can get organic SEO with a podcast. So I promise you, when you get off of this, just when you stop watching this, you can go Google my name, Phylecia Jones, spell it correctly, or you can Google budgetologist. It is so interesting that over time, I started doing my podcast. I also started interviewing, being a guest on other people's podcasts. And so now that organic SEO just started popping up. I never went and tricked my website. I never put in like a billion keywords of doing anything. But when I started having my own podcast, all of a sudden I started showing up in Google. I started showing up in Microsoft and Edge and Bing, all those different things. When I started using my own little hashtag, and don't get caught up on the hashtags, y'all, don't get caught up on it. But I started showing up, which was so interesting to me. And I think I'm literally like on the first 1.5 pages if you Google my name. And that is from me putting out content and then also me being on other people's podcasts. So it is organic SEO. And remember, as a speaker, you got to be able to have people reach you, to find you, and be able to go to your website. So if you put your name, Twyla K, motivational speaker, Annette Bone, sales trainer, and you're always going to use this title whenever you are when you're doing your podcast, when you're putting your descriptions out there, when you're on other people's podcasts. And now when they're searching for motivational speaker, sales trainer, you might show up. You might show up, even if your name pops up. The title will always be there. And this is the thing, as speakers, there's 2 ways to get speaking gigs. We got to go out there and search for them, which is like 80% of the work. 20% of the work is being organically found. And if you can be organically found through search engines, if corporations are looking for sales trainer, if they're looking for a more motivational speaker, you got to be able to bump up that SEO. Now, with this podcast, you get organic SEO. I'm telling you, it is so nuts when I started doing this, because I never trust me, I am not one of those. When I started podcasting, there was no strategy. There was no overall plan. I thought it would be a lot of fun. I went to a class last year, or I was at a conference, and someone was talking about SEO and Google yourself. And I was so surprised. I only did this like last October. I Googled myself and I was like, whoa, like I got to show up everywhere. And that's kind of cool. And even your photos in those little images, when you search, you'll start popping up in those images because now your image is associated with your podcast anytime someone is searching for you. I'm telling you. This organic SEO is so amazing. Twyla is saying organic SEO is so much better. You're getting seen by people who want to see you. You're so right, Twyla. And Annette is saying, I hear you about SEO. I still need to optimize mine, but it doesn't stop me from podcasting consistently. And yes, here's the thing about all of this. All of these things that I'm telling you, I don't want you to get trapped on them, okay? Please do not go get trapped on SEO. It is a rabbit hole that won't lead you to speaking gigs. And what I mean is that if you start researching and searching and searching and searching, now you're spending 6 months trying to understand SEO when you could be podcasting and you could be laying this in the hands of speaker coordinators, okay? So you got to remember all this stuff. I don't want you to go down rabbit holes, but I do want you to pay attention to some of the benefits that you're getting. Hey, Mr. Joseph, how are you doing this morning? And plus, I got to drop in and say thank you so very much for being here on a Sunday morning. This is so much fun for me, and you're going to love it. Oh my gosh. Let me know if you're getting enough content out of this, and I can just ham it up even more, okay? And Annette is saying, I started my podcast in a similar manner. I wanted to prove to myself that I could do it more than anything else. Yes, me too, Annette. And inadvertently, I started this live stream, which is now a podcast. So there's like, I don't know, almost 100 shows. Not all of them are published yet, but they're out there. All right. So, all right, we've talked about, here's some benefits. 1, people are listening, and also remembering that the right people are listening. 2, SEO is organic, and you can start getting your SEO once you have your podcast out there. And now, here's the other benefit. People will reach out to you because of your podcast. All right. I got to write this down. Y'all, I got to write this down. If you're new to my show, you'll know that some of these things come to me as I go. So we talked about the first 2 benefits. People are listening. 2, organic SEO. Number 3, people will reach out to you because of your podcast. Now, here's the thing. I learned how to come into the business world as a coach. I went through I went through a business coaching course. I learned how to be a coach, and I learned how to do the sales training, doing the magical sales phone calls, getting discovery sessions, networking my butt off. And then the next step I took was actually starting to speak, to market myself. One of the unexpected things that happened when I started podcasting is now I put that label of podcaster behind my name. It is the weirdest thing. It's kind of like putting author behind your name. And now people are like, oh, that's interesting. And now that I have podcasting behind my name, it becomes even more interesting because one, people are still very curious about podcasting. They are very curious. And even if they don't know anything about you, even if they don't want to talk to you, they'll go listen to your podcast and then they will reach out to you. And every time someone reaches out to me now, it always starts, hey, I was listening to your podcast and I was wondering if you could fill in the blank. Hey, Adonia, how you doing? How are you doing this morning? And it's been so interesting that people will reach out to you. And one of the extra unexpected benefits is that now that I can call myself a podcaster, guess what? I get to be interviewed on other people's podcasts. Being interviewed on other people's podcasts means other people will listen to theirs, will come back to mine, and you'll have people who will just start slowly trying to engage in you. And then what happens is that they'll start reaching out to you for speaking engagements. I know it's like a long trail. You got to follow me on this one. People will reach out to you to be interviewed on their podcast. People will listen. They'll start engaging with you. And then all of a sudden you'll get that surprising thing of, you know what? Hey, we were looking for a speaker and we thought that this would be great. Now, I got a speaking engagement a couple of months ago, and she was someone who was watching my live stream, but also listening to the podcast whenever she could. And, and she also listened to a couple of interviews that I've done on other people's podcasts. And so she was kicking off this thing around money. It was around money and business owners. And so she reached out to me and she said, you know what? You talk so very well about money that I'm kicking off this brand new event and I can't imagine doing it without you. I was like, whoa, that's pretty cool, So people reaching out is the same as people are listening, but now people will take that extra step because now when they listen to what I have to say, especially for me or especially for you, you are the expert in your area. So when they need something, when they're kicking off something and they can't imagine not having you there, they will start reaching out. Now, I'm not saying that this podcasting thing is going to give you like benefits in the next 2 or 3 months. This has been almost a year of being consistent. A year of being consistent because people need to know that you're serious and you don't have 5 episodes and we never hear from you again. People need to know that you're consistent. And once they see that you're consistent, they will start reaching out. You will get people that say, hey, I'm doing this thing and I can't imagine you not being here. Or, hey, I want you to be on my podcast. Or, hey, I want you to be on my TV show. Or, hey, I need to interview you. That's how it works. Okay. And I know we're talking about for speakers. And what I'm really talking about this entire week when it comes to speaking is getting your name out there. Interviews, writing assignments, television. I'm not a big TV person, but the thing is, as a speaker, you have to get your name out there and you're going to have to disrupt the world with your name. Okay. People need to know who you are. And this is one of the things that I have taught in my class is that you cannot go get speaking gigs if people don't even know your name. Okay. So you're going to have to put your name out there and it's going to be a lot of inadvertent methods, but they work. Okay. They work. So let me go ahead and see what everybody's saying. Oh, I got a lot of things over here. So, hey, Adonia, she's saying, I'm new to you, but enjoying listening to you speak so far. And yes, it's early in California, but I really wanted to hear what you had to share. Thank you so very much for being up early in California. I know, just turn me on in bed and lay back down on the pillow. Annette is saying, I hear you on that. I've had to get used to calling myself a podcaster and it does intrigue people. I'm telling you, y'all, being a podcaster is very intriguing. It is very intriguing and it's probably one of the fastest ways to get yourselves booked as for interviews and to get people on your show. And I'm gonna tell you a very sneaky method of getting of getting speaking engagements in a minute, okay? So Twyla is saying she's worth the listen. Aw, you're so sweet, Twyla. Twyla's in Texas, so she didn't have to get up that early. Twyla's saying, just moved to Texas. My biz card says speaker. Got 2 speaking gigs in a week, just handing out my card. Yes. Here's the thing, everyone. If you are a speaker, you have to get your name out there. And just because it's on your website is not good enough. Having it on your business card is good, but you still have to take those extra steps, okay? And being able to do marketing as a podcaster is just one of those extra ways that'll help you get there, okay? It's one of those extra ways that'll help you get there. Now, I know a lot of you are probably asking, like, Phylecia, how do I even start a podcast? All right, my friends over at Podcast Websites, I know, shameless plug here. My friends over at Podcast Websites, the link is in the comment box for those of you here on Facebook, okay? You go to keepupwithmrsjones.com/podcast websites. The beautiful thing about them is that you can actually get them on the phone. So I just want you to schedule a session and hear what they have to say. They have very cute English accents, so you could just listen to them. And you can feel like you're like royalty, you know, like you can kind of feel like you're Meghan Markle, but you just didn't marry into the family. You know what I mean? But you go schedule a session with them and they will tell you all the ins and outs of when it comes to podcasting. I'm telling you, it's one of the most beautiful things, and they can help you get your podcast out there a whole lot faster than what I did. Now you can go the DIY method. We're going to talk about that later in the week. You can go the DIY method. You can definitely do it, but there's a whole bunch of moving pieces to it. When I know you as a speaker, here, all my speaker friends, listen to me clearly. It is August right now. September is coming up faster than what we think. And you're already scheduling for 2019 for speaking gigs. This is the time where you got to start looking at 2019. So if you're looking to get a podcast up, you need to kind of think about it sooner rather than later if you want to use podcasting as a way to market yourself, okay? All right. Here's a number 4 reason. So far we've talked about 1, people are listening to your podcast that never engage. They never leave a review, but they're listening. Number 2, organic SEO, man, best thing ever. Number 3, people will reach out to you just because you have a podcast or you've been on podcasts, okay? Number 4, here's a very sneaky way of getting speaking gigs. All right, write this down, people, write this down. Because you have a podcast, you have the ability to go out and reach out to people who are speaker coordinators, event coordinators, or people that have something that could allow you to be on stage. And I'm going to tell you how this could work. So here's how it could work. All right. What you can do is that you can dangle a carrot in front of them. Like, here's a little carrot. You know, you want it. Because some event coordinators, some speaker coordinators, they are also business owners at the same time, or they are representing their company. All you have to do is reach out to them and invite them to be a guest on your show. All right, let me explain that again. Remember, as a podcaster, you have the ability to get in front of an audience, okay? I have an audience right now. I don't have a huge audience, but I have an audience, and people want to get in front of my audience. When you're looking at event coordinators, when you're looking at companies, when you're looking at people who host seminars or workshops, those types of gigs that you're trying to get, one of the best things you can do is invite them to be on your show and ham it up. Seriously, like, hey, I want to invite you on my show. I love what you're doing in your company. Gosh, my audience would love to hear what you're talking about, what you're selling, whatever. Because what we need to do as speakers is that we have to be able to bridge the gap and start creating relationships. And inviting someone onto your show is a great way to create a relationship. Now, you don't get them on your show and then you like throw up all over them and like, hey, can you book me as a speaker? No. You just create the relationship and then you put in your follow-up strategy saying, hey, I love what you're doing. And you would be surprised. You'll be surprised that when an event comes up, they will remember you. Remember that, okay? Remember that. So you have something that people want when it comes to podcasting. All right. I'm writing this down so I can remember it later. Remember, as a podcaster, what you don't have as just a coach, as a consultant, as someone who doesn't have a TV show, what you don't have is a leveraging tool. I know I'm squeezing balls here. You don't have a leveraging tool, but as a podcaster, you have a leveraging tool that can be used in your favor to start building the relationships with the people that you need to meet. So just think about it right now. Just imagine if you had your podcast going right now and you only had 500 or 1,000 downloads, but you get about 20 people who listen, who watch or whatever consistently. Just imagine if you were to reach out to a local networking group that has a large audience that you want to get in front of, and you invite that speaker coordinator, you invite that director, you invite that event host to be on your show. Now you can create the relationship. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm losing my voice. This is a great way to leverage your podcast to get in front of the people that you need to meet. I want you to think about that. Tell me what you think while I drink my tea. Tell me what you think about that, using your podcast as a leveraging tool. Woo. All right. I got my tea in. So hopefully this is making sense to you. I'm hoping this is making sense so that you can understand that having a podcast it elevates you to like the next level. It really does. I mean, I think the next level is like TV and all that kind of stuff, and then hosting your own event. But this podcast thing, it really can take you from here to like here fairly quickly, because people don't mind coming on to podcasts, especially in the world where I have been. I don't interview people on this particular show, but I did interview people on the last show. And now that I've built those relationships with people, here's the other thing that's worked out. I've gotten referrals from them to other people for speaking engagements. I also interviewed someone on my other show who ran an event herself. Guess what? I got an invite to be on her stage. And she'd been running this event for like 3 years. And I've known her, and she never even invited me to the event. That's how crazy it was. But she invited me to be on her stage the next time she had the event. So you have a leveraging tool when you have a podcast, okay? So I really want you to think about that, all right? I want you to think about that. And so the last thing I want to tell you about when it comes to benefits as a speaker running a podcast. Okay, I got some words coming in. Adonia is saying definitely makes sense. Love it. Annette is saying, I never thought about podcasting would open the doors that it has so far, and more speaking engagements is what I want. All right. You're so right, Annette. So here's the thing, and I'm going to step into my speaker coordinator shoes, and something that I don't care to see when people are pitching for speaking gigs, and something you can do as a podcaster. Now that you have your podcast, you have content. Ooh, I got a bonus one. You got content. You have straight up content. But what you can do with your podcast is that when you're reaching out to speaker coordinators, you're reaching out to people like me, instead of sending me an email that says, I am the greatest person in the world, I am in town, you should book me, I do this, I speak about this, I talk about this, I had got an email last week. It's like 3 paragraphs that all start with the word I. Now just imagine that you're pitching a speaker coordinator and you say this, make it about them. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so interested in your organization. I attended, I listened, I watched, and you have an amazing group of women that I really would like to get in front of. Now, I just want to tell you a little bit about me. I talk about XYZ, and I have a podcast, and I think it'd be really interesting if you take a look at it, because I think your group would be interested, would really hang on to this topic. So take a listen, and I'll reach back out to you in a couple of days. So I know that was a really bad off the top of my head for a Sunday morning, not thinking straight, but just imagine, instead of you sending an email that talks about I do this, I do this, I do this, Just imagine if it was just a short paragraph that talked about their organization and gave a topic that you are pretty good at that they could just go and listen to on the podcast. Wouldn't that be a little bit more interesting? Not just a speaker one sheet, not just a speaker reel, because eventually they will get back to the speaker reel. But for me as a speaker coordinator, I need to know what you're talking about. And when I see that the pitch is all about you, and how you're the most amazing person in the world, I don't know much. I can go to your website, but if I'm not tuning in after the first 3 sentences, I'm already out. But if you say, I have this topic, how to buy more shoes when you're on a shoestring budget that my group would be interested in, all right, I might go and listen to the podcast. Because remember, your voice is the main thing that counts in this. People need to hear your voice as a speaker, and they need to hear that you know what you're talking about. Me as a speaker coordinator, you can send me all the emails in the world. I love beautiful speaker one sheets, but I also know that a speaker one sheet doesn't really prove to me that you know what you're talking about. So if I can go and see you on stage, that's even better. But if I can go and hear exactly what you're saying when you're not poised and crafted on stage, we can talk about something, okay? So just imagine, instead of sending an entire email with just talking about you just say, hey, I have a really cool podcast that I think your audience would really enjoy. Send it to them and then follow back up and say, hey, what did you think? I would love to talk to you about, how you select speakers. Make it about them, not I, like me. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Annette is saying, if I had a template that could be customized for podcasters to submit for speaking, if you had a template that could be customized for podcasters to submit for speaking, based on what you said, I know people would find it helpful. You know what I'm doing, Annette, is that I'm actually going to take all these videos and put it into a course, and I'm going to fill in the blank with everything. But the other thing is, I don't want you to be so caught up on templates, because templates are great, but you're going to have to craft it in your voice when you are pitching, okay? You're crafting in your voice when you're pitching. So, but you're right, Annette. So what I'm going to do for all of you after this week, I'm going to take all these videos and put them in a course. That's why I have to take my notes so that I can fill in all of the blanks so that, you can come and find it. But I'll write that down in a template. But that's what I want you to realize, is that you can send a speaker coordinator your podcast so that they can hear what you have to say. All right. And yes, have a very specific title. Don't send fluffy things like I'm the greatest person in the world, or how to make your life better while eating marshmallows. I don't know. But you got to be very specific. All right. So any questions? I've been talking a lot. Any questions from anyone? And I'm going to give you one last bonus one. And Heather is an amazing copywriter. So definitely Heather can help out if you're finding yourself needing to kind of juice up your pitches a little bit. Heather is saying templates are a good guide, but they don't make a great crutch. They don't make a great crutch. Okay. Yes, Heather. For most people. Yes. Annette is saying, agree with the template with the caveat that it needs to sound conversational and like yourself. Yes, that's the thing. It needs to be conversational. And I know a lot of people use templates and it goes poorly. And I get a lot of templates, and trust me, they go very poorly. And this is just from me as a speaker coordinator. All right. So send me your questions. Seriously, what questions do you have? And I'm going to give you one bonus benefit that just came to mind that has really helped me out. So here's the thing, and I'll just tell you a little bit about my story. Ever since starting this podcast, people have reached out to me. Here, I have landed. So I am going to be the MC for the South Metro Denver Chamber of Commerce Women in Business Annual Conference. That was because, and they reached out to me to be their MC because someone watched my live stream and also listened to the podcast. Now, a lot of this, you're going to be like, well, Phylecia, you're talking about live streaming and podcasting. It really is almost the same. I'm trying to get you to be consistent with doing something. But I have a live stream podcast and I have a regular podcast. But she reached out to me because she was actually showing up almost every other morning. And she was like, Phylecia, we were trying to find somebody to MC our event. And I know I've been watching you every morning. And now we network together. But she was like, because I watch you every morning, I figured that you'd be really fun to have on stage, and you know what you're talking about, and you're very engaging. See, that's one of the benefits of having this podcasting. Like I said, I had someone else who reached out to me who listened to the podcast, and she was like, you talk about money, and I knew I couldn't start this event without you. The television spot that I got last year for holiday budget, I know I'm sounding very arrogant right now, but I just want to show you, like, this is not rocket science. I didn't plan all this stuff, but I'm telling you, this stuff could work for you as well. If I can do it, you know you can do it. You know, the anchor from the Channel 9 News here in Denver, he searched me. He searched for me, and the podcast came up in the search fields. That's the SEO thing, and I've gotten clients. I got a client from Podcast Movement who listens to my podcast. And he just started listening to the podcast. And I was so surprised that he reached out and booked a session with me, but he was like, I really liked your podcast, and I figured I needed to talk to you. So what I'm telling you is that this podcasting thing, people are listening, people are searching, and they will find you. They will reach out, and you can also use it and leverage it to your best advantage. Okay. You can use it to your best advantage. So think about it. I really want you to think about it. So Twyla saying consistency is key. Twyla saying, yes, consistency is the biggest key. Now, Annette is asking, have I booked speakers that are podcasters? Actually, I have not, Annette. I have not booked speakers that are podcasters because the people in my world, I don't know a lot of podcasters the way I network. See, you see, it's kind of funny. Actually, I'm lying. I have booked someone who has a podcast, but not because they were a podcaster. They're just a big PR person, but PR people kind of know this game. But to be honest, Annette, a lot of the people that I'm around don't podcast. And the podcasters that I know are not local to me. So it would, it would be a lot more fun if the people who reached out to me were podcasters, because now I don't have to read a whole lot. All I have to do is I can literally just put my earphones in and just listen to what they have to say and then make a decision, versus right now I have to kind of go read a lot. I got to go to their website. I got to go look and see what they're doing on social media. But if I were able to just pop over to their podcast, that would be a whole lot easier for me as a speaker coordinator. But that's just me as a speaker coordinator. Not all are the same. So don't put all speaker coordinators in one mixed bag. But and I do have some other people that I have booked who have started podcasts after the fact. But on a regular basis, no, a lot of the people that I book as speakers, they are not podcasters. And only because for one group, I'm going after $1 million business owners, and not all of them. They don't have the time to podcast. And then, so Annette was saying, was it hearing their podcast or was it their subject matter that had me book them? So like I said, a lot of the people that I have booked have not been podcasters. And that, I mean, it's just unfortunate. So I have to do the extra legwork to actually go and see them speak, or to get recommendations from other people that have seen them speak. But yes, it would be a lot easier for me as a podcaster, as a speaker coordinator. If they had a podcast, I can literally just turn it on while I'm doing other things, just to hear what they're saying, to hear how they are engaging. Like if they're kind of boring, it's like, yeah, I don't want to hear you speak. I have begged a podcaster to come and speak for me. We know this person, Annette. I'm like literally on my knees begging right now, and I want him to come speak because he is a podcaster, but we got to make some mountains move for that one to happen. But yes, because I listen all the time, I would book people because they are podcasters. Heather is saying that's the hard part. Those soft skills still need to be there. And Heather is probably talking about the templates. If you're really green to writing copy, it's going to be harder to sound natural and make it compelling. So what Heather is talking about is using other people's templates to pitch for speaking gigs. And what she's saying is that if you're very green to copywriting, if you're very green to all of the writing parts of it, it's going to be very hard to make it sound natural as if it's a conversation. So you're very right. Adonia is asking, what made you start podcasting in the first place? Oh, wow, Adonia, that's a very good question. So I've been a consumer of podcasts for a few years, and I really wanted to start one, but I don't like the sound of my own voice. So that's why I never did it. And so I was just like, maybe I should just fix my voice and no, stupid things in your head. But what really happened last year, because I sat on it for the long time, I was just like, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I was actually admitted into the hospital last year, and I had some unexpected surgery. I had a couple of friends that passed away, and I just realized that life was way too damn short. That's the short answer. I can give you a very cute, fluffy answer. I knew this was the best marketing tool. No, I just realized life was too darn short. So I got off my butt and started doing something. See, I'm a learner. I like to read, but I realized last summer I needed to get off my butt and just actually start doing. And within that short amount of time, since I started the podcast last year, things have been crazy. A lot of these speaking gigs that I've gotten have came from last year. The TV spot came from last year. The MC gig actually came this year. So within that short amount of time, now I'm not big time. I'm not rolling with the big dogs or anything, but going from here to here has been huge. I attribute a lot of that to me marketing myself, but a lot of it has been going to this podcast and having the courage to actually get off my butt and actually launch this podcast has been the biggest thing. And that's the one thing, having the courage to get off your butt and do something with a podcast can actually elevate you faster than what you think. All right. Annette is saying you're consistent, you show up, you're confident in communicating your content. That's why you're getting results. Plus you're super likable. Thank you, Annette. You're so super likable. You're so cute, Annette. Thank you. I need to reach out to you. I need to know what's going on with your dancing stuff. So they will find you. Heather is saying they will find you. Liam Neeson style. They will find you. Because I have an impressive set of skills. No, I don't know how to kidnap people. Adonia is saying, I love that response. Thank you so very much. Annette is saying that the fastest way to get over not liking the sound of your voice is to do it. I never thought I'd get over it, but it's possible. You know what, Annette, you're right. I still don't like the sound of my voice, but it's just like, yeah, whatever. I can't change it now. I can't get a new voice box. It's kind of like at some point you are what you look like, and it's just like, whatever. Just go for it. Life is short, so get off your butt and start doing something. And Twilight saying that's where I get hung up the most, not having the courage to put themselves, that's where most get hung up, not having the courage to put themselves out there. That's the thing about a podcast, because podcasts aren't fun if nobody's listening. So you have to put yourself out there. All right. So we're getting very long in the tooth, and I'm thanking you for being here, but I'm going to give you one bonus when it comes to the benefits of speakers. So let me wrap up. Here's why you should start podcasting as a speaker, or if you are a podcaster who wants more speaking gigs. One, people are listening. They're listening. Two, organic SEO. It helps and it works. Number three, people will reach out to you, but you better be ready when they do it as well. They will reach out. The more you put yourself out there, they will reach out. Number four, use your podcast as a leveraging tool to get speaker coordinators or event coordinators onto your show, and then you can build that conversation, and then later on you can kind of have that conversation about the speaking gig that you're really looking for. So use your podcast as a leveraging tool. Number five, send your podcast to speaker coordinators. So instead of sending very long emails about how amazing you are, because you are, send them a sample of your content so that they can consume and make the decision themselves. And they'll either say you suck or I love you. And if they say you suck, like whatever, I got 500 more people to send this to. Number six, my bonus thing for you today is that if you suck at blog writing, you hate blog writing, you hate live streaming, you hate doing all those other things, podcasting is the easiest way to get some content out and stick it on your website. You never have to write another blog post. Just use your voice. It is the easiest way to get some content out there. And you can just start putting it on your website so that now your website is searchable. Two, you have some content on there. Three, people can consume it. And if you want to get all extra fancy, you can transcribe your podcast if you really want some words on your podcast, on your website. People like words, okay? But you can give you content, all right? So I wanted to just come here today and just let you and give you some of the benefits of podcasting. We've gone on for a bit. I appreciate you being here. I hope this has been helpful. If you are really thinking about podcasting, I want to let you know I am partnering with my friends over at Podcast Websites. So the link is in the comment box. All you have to do is go to keepupwithmrsjones.com/podcast websites. For those of you who are on Instagram, check the link in the bio. I don't coach on podcasting. I don't coach on launching podcasts. I can tell you what I did and how it was a hot mess in the beginning. But I also know as speakers, we got to get ourselves out there. They are an amazing company. You can have one-on-one phone conversations. They can answer every question you have about getting your podcast out there. They have a Success Academy where you can learn how to put together your podcast, what to say, how to script it, all of those things. They have it, y'all. Seriously, they have it. And I think the Podcast Success Academy, parts of it is free. But if you become a subscriber to what they are doing, all of it's yours. And you get to have some cool English people on 24 hours, 7 days support. It's pretty cool. You could say the queen is like helping you out. I know they wouldn't like that, but but is really cool. If you get your podcast out there, they make it. It's a monthly subscription, so you can go check it out. For those of you who did sign up to be on my email list for this event, I'll put it down at the very, very bottom when I do my sign off. But I'm going to send you, if you're on my email list, I'm going to send you a coupon to get $10 off for life if you subscribe to them. And you're also going to get an invite to my very special training that I'm doing at the end of the month, absolutely free. How to land your next 5 speaking gigs. This is going to be paid content, but I'm going to give it all to you for free. It's a one-time only training. So I'm going to invite you, but you got to be on the email list to get all that. So I'm going to sign off and let you know how you can get on the email list. But seriously, if you have any questions, put them in the comment box. But I really want to encourage you to look at the next level of your marketing as a speaker. Now, this month on my show, we've been talking about the recession, how to recession-proof your business, how to bump up your speaking business, especially if people are not gonna hire speakers even more. You're gonna have to do what a lot of speakers aren't doing. You're gonna have to put out some amazing content and put your content into the hands of speaker coordinators sooner rather than later. Okay, you got to do it sooner rather than later. All right. So Twyla said that's okay. So Twyla's saying you can repurpose your podcast into blogs, social media posts, etc. So you don't have to come up with 1,000 pieces on your own. You are so right, Twyla. Repurposing. But we got to purpose first. We got to purpose before we repurpose. Is that a thing? Annette is saying this course is going to be dope when you have it all done. Yes, it's going to be on Thinkific. So when it's done, and it's actually, I think it's probably going to be like $5 or something. I don't know. I just want you all to get out there and do some things. A hot mess done better than a perfect podcast, which doesn't exist. That hasn't launched. There is no perfect podcast. For all of you who think that you need to be perfect, stop it. Stop it. Purpose before repurpose. I need to make a t-shirt out of that. Purpose before you repurpose. All right. I'm going to go sign off on Instagram first. But while I'm doing that, if you have any questions, put them in the comment box. Okay. Put them in the comment box. My purpose on this planet is to make sure that you are successful. If you want more speaking gigs, if you want to feed your budget and make more money, I am here to help you. And I just want to give you some extra tools to kind of help you bump up a little bit to get yourself out there. So for those of you on Instagram, I will see you bright and early tomorrow morning. We're going to talk about how it's a budget talk. It's my money coaching talk on tomorrow, but how speakers can make money from their podcasts and through their podcasts. So we're going to talk about that. For those of you on Instagram, I'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning. Happy budgeting. Bye. For those of you who are still here on Facebook, thank you so very much. Beatrice is saying great content. Looking forward to Monday. Have a good Sunday. So looking forward to the rest of this week from Twyla. Thank you so very much. So tomorrow we're gonna have a money talk because that's what I do. We're gonna talk about how you can make money through your podcast and with your podcast. And not only just from being booked as a speaker. We're going to talk about this in depth because I'm going to show you how I made money from my podcast and then how you can get very, very creative. So if you need me, you know where to find me. If you need anything, if you need to go and talk to the people over at podcast websites about launching your podcast, please go over, use the link, keepupwithmrsjones.com/podcast websites, schedule a one-on-one session. They will be there to help you. And they are so friendly. It's co-founder, Mr. Mark Asquith, who's going to be on the show Thursday. So we're going to talk more in depth about his speaking career, or how he launched a speaking career through his podcast and what he's doing now with podcast websites. So thank you so very much. I know we went very long, but you know what? If the content is good, you better soak it up. It's free, y'all. It's free, budget-friendly freebies, people. So thank you so very much for being here. You know I appreciate you. Take care. Happy budgeting. See you bright and early tomorrow morning. Bye.